Mr. Richard Stanley. We have a question and answer session after the screening, so you can ask everything and anything that comes to mind. And I know this has been a little bit traumatic experience, that might be even an understatement, but would you like to say maybe some feelings you got watching the documentary yourself before we start the screening?
Well, this is, for me, a real horror movie, but it is a horror movie for filmmakers. I think it should be shown in film schools for anyone who is stupid enough to want to direct movies. Because it shows just how very wrong things can go. It is not the worst thing that ever happened to me, because it is only a movie. And in real life, many, many worse things happen. Our loved ones die, we have to deal with disease, war, suffering and death. So what happens in a film is still only play acting, and at least in Moreau, nobody really died, and we all came out the other side with our arms and our legs and all of our fingers. So it was not so terrible. But it does explain why I've been so hard to find the last many years. But yeah, I will be here afterwards to answer any questions, and for the rest of you who are not involved in the island of Dr. Moreau, it is all right to laugh, because from the outside point of view, it works well as black comedy. So yeah, I wish you luck, and hope you enjoy the rapacious and pitiless folly of the island of Dr. Moreau.
We just thought that Richard Stanley doing Island of Dr. Moreau was one of the most exciting projects we'd heard of in a while.
This is going to be a huge project, and this is going to propel Richard Stanley into the superstardom that he deserves as an auteur.
It was a script we were extremely confident in, that we thought would be some sort of milestone in the genre. New Line tried in different ways to contain the material.
I wasn't particularly enthusiastic about the project, frankly.
It was some lunatic movie that's known as one of the worst films ever made.
Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer were there to mess with the film as much as possible.
I've dealt with some very, very difficult actors in my life, but I have never, ever dealt with somebody like Marlon Brando.
He wanted an ice bucket on top of his head.
He'd covered himself in white paint.
I think that's how the whole mini-me thing developed, of Marlon adopting this little guy.
It doesn't matter who directs it. It's not about the vision. It's about the stars.
Did you hear about? Oh my God! The Richard Stanley climbed into a tree today. It wouldn't come down.
He was living and breathing Moreau, and then literally just have that murdered. I think he probably went a bit mad.
I think once that rumour started, that Richard Stanley was in the background, that I think that just grew into Richard Stanley then wanting to sabotage the shoot.
As it went on, it descended into more and more kind of madness.
I knew that this was going to be totally insane, and that we were going to be hugely lucky if we just finished a film with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Knowing that the odds were stacked against me, I resorted to witchcraft.
I've often wondered what happened to Richard Stanley.
What was your first reaction when you were approached about this documentary?
Well, it came about more or less by accident. I did the short film, The Mother of Toads, for David Gregory at Severin. and which was released as part of an anthology movie called The Theatre Bazaar. It's the first segment in this movie. And when I did the commentary track and the extras for Theatre Bazaar, David interviewed me and asked me some questions about the island of Dr. Moreau. And then this started, initially David thought he might shoot some more interviews and post it on his website for his DVD company. And he went off and spent about a year tracking down slowly everyone else who was involved in the production. But put the movie together and edited it without me knowing about it.
Okay.
And he eventually sent me a link to a cut of the film, which really surprised me. And my first reaction when I saw the link, I remember I wrote on the pad next to my computer words, "Call lawyer."
Did you call him after seeing the film?
Yeah, I was initially very irate. Finally, I saw the film with an audience in Paris and found that it was funny. In fact, funnier, more consistently funny than anything else I've probably ever been involved with. So, to some extent, I could see it done something good with the material. And at the same time, by getting this story out, it's cleared up a lot of things about the island of Dr. Moreau.
How accurate is it? Is there something missing or something told in a way that you don't recall yourself happening?
It's probably about 60% accurate. And basically, it's quite lightweight, so there's little commentary on anything really bad that happened, like the murder in Mulholland Drive and the background with Brando's immediate family. Like, before I went into the meeting with Brando, the people who were in the meeting before me came out, and David Lynch and Harry Dean Stanton walked past me. The sense of darkness around the house in Mulholland Drive in that period was very palpable. And yeah, Daniel Rigney, the guy who played the hyena swine, the main monster in the movie, was a friend of Russell Crowe's who'd been in the movie called Romper Stomper. And Daniel saw the Moreau as a possible breakout part and really became the hyena swine. And was killed in a fight in a bar about a week after the end of the shoot, was beaten to death. So yeah, there's a darkness to it, which this is quite lightweight. It skates over the top. There's not much mention of drugs or who's sleeping with who. Then also, a lot of folk are lying in little ways. Like, everyone likes to know that they're in charge and, or they didn't know what's going on. So often people are saying true things that happened, but they didn't always happen to the people who are repeating them. Notably, Frankenheimer's first AD, who had a couple of times is blatantly lying, but doing it in quite a believable way. Like, a detail is that the director and the AD on the union shoot can't direct extras. If you direct an extra, the extra can apply for a union card as an actor. So they don't. Instead, on Dr. Moreau, the extras, the beast people, were all directed by Peter Elliott, the animal behaviorist, who was in charge of telling us what to do as beast people. So I never actually had any contact with the first AD. He says at one point that yeah, he comes over and talks to me and says you did a great job and leaping around, etc. And he notices I have a different accent. But yeah, this conversation never happened. But I was there on set as a dog. So people are lying in little ways. So yeah, it's about 60% accurate.
Questions from the audience? Please raise your hand. Please.
Can I stand up?
Sure.
Should we do this like inside the actor's studio where I say, hello, my name is Tommy and I'm a first year acting student or something like that?
Pleasure.
It's not true actually. Anyway. At the beginning you said that we might find this film funny, this documentary, not Moreau, but this documentary funny, and now you just said that you yourself found it funny. I'm just thinking about how do you feel about the experience of Moreau now, after all these years?
It's a weird thing to go through, but I'm pretty much at peace with it, in that there's so many worse things in life. And yeah, Marlon Brando is wrong about the film industry being full of hyenas, because that's only because he's spent his whole life in the film industry. In reality, the whole world is full of hyenas. So yeah, Moreau's kind of a little thing. It's also the only project that's ever paid me checks. And every so often it comes back and yeah, threatens to rise up again. I wrote a new script for it this year. And then a French comic book company wanted to commission a graphic novel adaptation of it. Then the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes people wanted to read the damn thing. Then CBS Television announced a rival production, which they claim will be a feminist Moreau, with a lady playing Dr. Moreau. So it still lives, and it's still out of control. So you know, I don't really regret it, and I don't think it could have really been much different.
But you're actually writing about the same topic still, again. Did I understand correctly?
Yeah, I did another draft this year. Okay. Of The Island of Dr. Moreau. Slightly revised and but much better. Because the French comic book company wanted to adapt the original script, and I went back and read the original script and thought, there's so much room for improvement. So yeah, sat down and spent 2 months and wrote a new draft.
Should you be able to do it this time around, who would you cast for the main leads?
Yeah, I don't think I should speculate. I'm still scared of ever actually having to make the damn movie. Because I can see the same things have happened again and again. I mean, there was also a terrible version by Don Taylor before us, and there was one guy who was actually on both Moreaus. He was on the Burt Lancaster Moreau and on the Marlon Brando Moreau, and said that both productions were exactly the same. And everyone on the Don Taylor version was drunk, and everyone on the Brando version was on drugs.
So it's a doomed topic. Please.
Who's drawing the comic adaptation?
Yeah, no decision has been made so far, because the company is still reeling from CBS's announcement that they're doing a rival Moreau. So yeah, I will see. And yeah, right now, with the way that the Dr. Moreau thing is going, with suddenly everyone wanting to do Dr. Moreau again, I'm going to kind of watch very carefully to see what happens next. But unfortunately, we've not heard the last of this. The beast will yeah, return in some terrible form or another. You know, maybe next time I'll be grabbed by a CG computer-generated hyena swine and just slammed into a tree or something. That will happen again.
More questions? Please.
Yes, have you actually seen the Frankenheimer version, and if so, is there anything about the changes in it that you actually like?
I've actually never seen the completed Frankenheimer version. I've tried watching the beginning and the end of it, and but I've never really been able to do it. Although I'm glad that Nelson De La Rosa got more scenes. Yeah, the mini-me thing remains very, very amusing.
It is expected or suggested in the film that the reason why Brando acted the way he acted during the shoot is that he mainly just want to fuck with the people producing the films. Do you buy into this theory?
Yeah, I mean, plainly by the time Brando arrived, the film was already an inconceivable mess, and beyond any attempt to salvage. I mean, one of the unfortunate things is if Brando had actually been there at the beginning, I think things would have turned out differently. In that, I don't think Val would have behaved quite the same way if Brando had been there and had been the bigger dog in the kennel. But yeah, Brando only made it quite a long time after I was removed from the project, and I'm also sorry I never got a chance to direct Brando. But he was always very polite to me. And yeah, treated me well. I've no idea what would have happened if I would have tried to direct him. I think it was my fault he ended up wearing white, though, because he originally wanted to wear just black and be a face hovering in darkness, which was like Apocalypse Now, so I tried to dissuade him from this, and this is one of the reasons I kept wearing a white suit and kept hammering on about the horror of whiteness. And there was a plot in the original script about there being no ozone layer, because Moreau's solution to things is, rather than worrying about CFC gases and carbon monoxide, instead to change melanin skin pigment so that it would automatically screen out radiation and adapt the organism to fit the environment, rather than try to change the environment. So I think the white zinc cream and the white outfit is a mutant version of one of the discussions we had before the movie.
Please.
Do you still feel like it was a good idea to resort to magic? To witchcraft?
Well, not really, because in hindsight it would seem that would have been the ideal opportunity to depart the project. Had I jumped the project at that stage, I would have then been the screenwriter on the Roman Polanski Dr Moreau, which might have been a more honourable position. But I was so enraged by them taking the project away that I guess I sought to use unnatural powers to change the normal course of events. But in a footnote, Skip, the warlock responsible, who was a guy who had fixed a problem for a friend of mine. I had a friend who had a cigarette import agency. He did something called Death Cigarettes, and his cigarette company got into trouble, and he went to Skip for help, and Skip cut his arm and drew a sigil of his coven and fixed my friend's company, and outside investors came in and refinanced him to the tune of £1 million within 24 hours, and from totally out of nowhere. So when I got thrown off the movie, I asked Skip to fix it. And Skip ended up in hospital, got a flesh-eating parasite, and then ended up addicted to painkillers, and spent years first in hospital and then in rehab. And then he worked his way up through rehab to become a rehab counsellor, and then used his position as rehab counsellor to form a new coven secret society out of the rehab business in London, and became extremely powerful. In fact, now works for the Dalai Lama. But Skip's doing great.
More questions? Please. Ei, mutta jos on toinen, niin voidaan ottaa. Mä en tiedä, kuinka pitää kuulla.
Was it true that you take your coffee with 4 sugars?
No, but I might have taken 2 or 3, even 4. I think he's exaggerated by at least 1 lump. I figured he had to think of something or some reason.
Have you ever imagined if you wouldn't have been taken out from the project, if you would have been able to finish the movie you ever dreamed to do, like with Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando, all the conflicts they had?
Yeah, it was probably already too late by the time Val Kilmer came aboard, because that was always going to be a disaster. There was a point where, at the same time, once you're on top of the thing, you can't really get off. I imagine that, the point Val came on board was when we already were in trouble. And another problem is that I now realize, now that I'm older, that you could never make an R-rated movie on that kind of budget. That all expensive fantasy, sci-fi movies always have to be for 12 and 13-year-olds. And we were always going to get into trouble. We were trying to deal with adult themes and material, and on that kind of budget. But at the time I was naive, thought we might get away with it. Yeah?
There was no mention about Mr. David Thewlis in the documentary.
Yeah, Thewlis's agent threatened David and said not to include any mention of him. So yeah, he was not commenting on it. And Ron Perlman didn't want to talk either, because he's also still working for some of the people involved.
There.
Between you being fired and emerging as an extra, what happened there and how long was it?
Yeah, it was at least a couple of months. In fact, I did go to Sydney. Yeah, I got a lawyer and went after trying to negotiate the best settlement I could. But then also felt guilty when initially Fraga managed to escape as far as Sydney. And New Line was threatening to have it declared legally insane in Australia, and the agent put pressure on her to fly her back to far north Queensland again to continue in the part. And I was feeling guilty about just walking away. I didn't want to leave all those people marooned there. A lot of those folk had gone there because I'd asked them to, or friends. And a lot of very good people were stranded in beast person makeup. Bill Hootkins and Tamara Morrison from Once for Warriors, and Ron Perlman and people in Fraga. So I went back out there just to give moral support.
Time for one or two more. Anyone? Please. Sorry, you in the back. First.
Have you ever thought about writing a book about the subject, which is 100% true?
I don't really need to. I think enough is in the movie that I'm not sure I'd want to write about it. I've written a book about some of the things that happened around that moment, but I haven't tried to describe Moreau. I mean, a lot happened, obviously, it's not in the movie, but I'm not sure that it's worth preserving for history. I mean, like, I remember during the hurricane, just after I'd been fired off the movie, trying to get back to where I was staying, and there was rain streaming down, and I was in the car with Marco Hofschneider, who was also the German actor, who was traumatized and wrapped in a blanket, and had just come out of Dogman makeup, and we hit an animal in the road and skidded to a halt, and I got out, and there was this big white rat, marsupial animal thing, dying on the tarmac, and we'd killed it. And I didn't know what it was, and it might even have been the last of its kind. And I remember this big, a terrible and traumatic moment. So yeah, lots of different things happened off camera, but I think it tells enough of the story to stand.
Yes. When will we see your next feature-length film here in Night Visions Film Festival?
Probably year after next. So we're hoping to shoot next summer, but we will not be able to get finished in time for next year. So fingers crossed for year after next.
What type of movie will that be?
It will be The Color Out of Space, from the work of H.P. Lovecraft.
To wrap this up, I must ask one more question. Where do you think you would be had you not been involved with any of the Dr. Moreau stuff? Had it never happened, where would you be right now?
As in, had the movie never happened?
As you hadn't even started writing it, but picked on another project, for example.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the time I sold the Dr. Moreau script, I was deeply in debt, but on Dust Devil, because I had to pay off all the lab costs on Dust Devil, and I literally lost my flat. Bailiffs were after me. I was in debt for about £44,000. So if I hadn't made the deal with the Moreau script, I might have been in a far darker situation. Okay. So it did take me off for a few years of insane adventures, and many things happened because of it.
Richard, thank you very much.